call for peace, an open letter to Zionists and hardline settlers. I write to you not as an adversary, but as a fellow human being and distant cousin composed of the same flesh and blood as an equal and belonging to the family of Ishmael, Prophet Ismail alayhi salam, son of Prophet Abraham alayhi salam. I am reaching out across the divide, the borders, and the walls that have separated the Palestinians from the Israelis for only a couple of generations. This letter is not just about politics, nor about the complexities of land and ownership. It is about the fundamental truth that all human beings, regardless of their faith, nationality, or history, have the right to live in peace, dignity, and security as equals. The Palestinians, by the teachings of their faith and belief in the prophets, Moses, peace be upon him, and Aaron, peace be upon him, in the original Torah, welcomed you to their land, but after the Zionist annexation, have long sought sovereignty over territories they claim, primarily the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem. The Holocaust, a tragic reminder of the need for justice. The Holocaust is one of the darkest chapters in human history, a period in which 6 million Jewish brothers and sisters were systematically murdered by the Nazi regime in Europe. This horrific event is a reminder of the extreme dangers of hatred, discrimination, racial discrimination, and persecution based on ethnicity, religion, or identity. The memory of the Holocaust must forever remain as a stark warning of the consequences of dehumanizing others and the urgent need to protect human rights and dignity. However, while the Holocaust demands that we stand up against all forms of violence and oppression, it is essential to remember that the Jewish people, in their quest for a homeland, should never inflict upon others the same suffering they endured, or the system of institutionalized racial segregation and discrimination. The creation of Israel, while offering a haven for Jewish people, must be approached with respect for the rights and humanity of the Palestinians who have lived in the land for centuries. The Jewish people, who have suffered greatly throughout history, should be the first to recognize the importance of justice and compassion for all people, regardless of their ethnic or religious identity. The historical deprivation of the Jewish homeland. For millennia, the Jewish people were deprived of a permanent homeland, especially in the land of Jerusalem and the surrounding territories. This tragic reality began after the destruction of the First Temple in Jerusalem by the Babylonians in 586 BCE, an event that marked the beginning of the Jewish exile. The Jewish people were dispersed across many lands, enduring centuries of hardship, persecution, and displacement. The second expulsion, this time by the Romans under Emperor Titus in 70 CE, led to the destruction of the Second Temple and the forced exile of the Jewish people from their homeland. The expulsion of Jews from Jerusalem and their subsequent scattering throughout the Roman Empire was a deep blow to their identity and any connection to the land. For centuries, the Jewish people longed for a return to Jerusalem, a city that holds immense spiritual and historical significance. Yet, for over 2 millennia, they were denied the ability to live in their homeland freely. Throughout this period, Jews were persecuted, expelled, and killed in many parts of the world, whether during the Crusades, the Spanish Inquisition, or pogroms in Eastern Europe. The reasons for this deprivation were rooted in a combination of religious, political, and cultural factors, as well as the long-standing hostility and attitude toward the Jewish people in various empires and nations. The grief of Prophet Moses, Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, and the lessons from Islamic teachings. The Quran and Sahih Hadith provide deep insights into the struggles of the children of Israel and their relationship with the land they were promised. According to Islamic teachings, the children of Israel, led by Prophet Moses, Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, were guided by Allah toward a homeland, but their disobedience and lack of faith caused them great hardship. A significant event in this story is found in the Sahih Hadith, where it is narrated that the children of Israel wandered in the desert for 40 years due to their defiance of divine guidance and their refusal to enter the promised land. This period of hardship was marked by grief for Prophet Moses, peace be upon him, who, according to the Hadith, was deeply troubled by the disobedience of his people. Prophet Moses, peace be upon him's grief over the failure of his people to honor their covenant with Allah illustrates the consequences of disobedience and ingratitude toward divine gifts. In a broader sense, it also reflects the pain of being deprived of one's homeland due to internal discord and external oppression. The tragedy of wandering in the desert serves as a reminder of the importance of unity, faith, and respect for divine will in securing peace and prosperity. For the Jewish people, this story emphasizes the preciousness of the homeland that was once promised to them and the immense cost of losing it due to strife and disobedience. To this day, many Jews hold dual citizenship, unsure about their future. The Roman expulsion and the loss of Jerusalem. The expulsion of the Jews by the Romans in 70 CE, following the destruction of the Second Temple, is one of the most significant historical events that shaped the Jewish diaspora. Emperor Titus and his legions laid siege to Jerusalem, and after their victory, the city was utterly destroyed. The Second Temple, the center of Jewish worship and culture, was razed to the ground, and the Jewish people were forced into exile. This event was not only a military defeat, but a profound loss of identity, as Jerusalem had been the spiritual and cultural heart of the Jewish people. The loss of Jerusalem to the Romans marked the end of Jewish sovereignty in the land for nearly 2 millennia. Jews were scattered across the Roman Empire from Europe to Asia, and the dream of returning to their homeland seemed all but lost. This expulsion and the subsequent sufferings of the Jewish people over the centuries contributed to a deep sense of longing for a return to Jerusalem, a longing that would persist for generations, culminating in the modern Zionist movement and the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. Israel's creation is rooted in both ancient biblical claims and modern political Zionism, and facilitated by the Balfour Treaty, in a region with existing nationalistic sentiments, leading to conflict and displacement or ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, unlike the formation of many other contemporary states. The declaration is widely seen as not fair. Palestine was already inhabited by a large Arab population, and the declaration was made without consulting them. It essentially promised a land that was not Britain's to give. The Balfour Declaration was not fair, as it disregarded the rights and wishes of the Arab population in Palestine. It contained vague language and contradictory clauses, which contributed to further conflict and misunderstanding. However, it is crucial to understand that this history of loss and suffering should not lead to the displacement or suffering of others. The Nakba, catastrophe, of Palestinians in 1948 resulted in the expulsion and flight of an estimated 700,000 to 750,000 Palestinians from their homes and lands. This occurred between December 1947 and the end of the war in 1949. Hundreds of Palestinian villages were destroyed, and major Palestinian urban centers were depopulated. This period of mass displacement is considered the first and most significant phase of the ongoing Palestinian refugee crisis. Just as the Jewish people were deprived of their homeland, we must remember that the Palestinians, too, have a historical connection to this land and the right to live in peace and security. The story of the Jewish people's exile and suffering must inspire empathy and a commitment to justice for all who call this land their home. Protection and equanimity under Muslims. During periods of Muslim rule across various regions, including the Islamic Caliphates, Spain, Al-Andalus, North Africa, and the Ottoman Empire, Jewish communities often experienced significant periods of protection and were able to attain high positions in various fields. Under the dhimmi system, Jews and Christians were recognized as people of the book and were generally allowed to practice their religion, maintain their communal institutions, and live relatively securely in exchange for paying a poll tax, jizya. This protection often allowed Jewish intellectual and economic life to flourish. In Al-Andalus, for instance, Jewish scholars, poets, scientists, and statesmen thrived during the Golden Age, contributing significantly to the cultural and intellectual landscape alongside their Muslim counterparts. Similarly, within the Ottoman Empire, after the expulsion from Spain in 1492, many Jews found refuge and were integrated into Ottoman society. They excelled in trade, finance, medicine, and administration, with some even reaching prominent positions in the Sultan's court. While the dhimmi status did entail certain restrictions and occasional periods of persecution existed, the overall environment in many of these Islamic empires provided a level of security and opportunity that was often superior to that experienced by Jewish communities in parts of Europe during the same periods. This legacy of relative tolerance and instances of high achievement for Jews under Muslim rule stands as a notable aspect of their shared history. We are all connected by the same soil, the same history, and the same future. The land you call the Holy Land is sacred to many, but it belongs to no one group exclusively. It has been home to Palestinians for centuries, as it has been for Jews, Christians, and others. The reality we face today is a painful one, grossly uneven, where a great injustice is being done to the Palestinian people, their families, their homes, and their futures. International law and the United Nations. The principles of international law are clear. No people have the right to dispossess another group from their land or forcibly displace them from their homes. The United Nations has repeatedly reaffirmed the rights of Palestinians to self-determination, to live in their own land, and to have their own state. The resolution passed by the United Nations General Assembly in 1947, Resolution 181, called for the partition of Palestine into two states, one Jewish and one Arab. And while Israel was established, the Palestinian people have been denied their own state and fundamental rights ever since. Under international law, the expansion of settlements in occupied territories is considered illegal, as stated in Article 49 of the Fourth Geneva Convention, which prohibits an occupying power from transferring its own civilian population into the territory it occupies. These actions are a clear violation of both international law and human dignity. The Torah and Jewish teachings. Let us turn to the Torah, the sacred text of the Jewish people. In Deuteronomy 16:20, it is written, "Justice, justice shall you pursue." Justice is not a one-way street. It requires recognizing the rights and dignity of all people, including Palestinians. Moreover, Jewish law teaches us the importance of treating others with kindness and respect, as articulated in Leviticus 19:18. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. This principle of love, kindness, and justice has been a cornerstone of Jewish ethical teachings for millennia. The renowned Rabbi Hillel, one of the most prominent Jewish sages, famously said, "What is hateful to you, do not do to others." These words reflect the core of Jewish ethics, the idea that we should not impose upon others what we would not want for ourselves. If we wish for our own people to live in peace and security, we must recognize that the Palestinian people also have the right to the same. The Prophet Moses, Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, and Jewish religious scholars. The Prophet Moses, Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, who is a revered figure in both Judaism and Islam, led the Israelites out of bondage and toward freedom. His story is one of liberation, justice, and compassion. Moses, peace be upon him's leadership was marked by a commitment to moral and ethical principles, which were based on love, fairness, and respect for human life. He did not lead through violence and oppression, but through compassion and guidance toward a better future. In the Talmud and other Jewish scriptures, the concept of justice, tzedakah, is central. Rabbi Abraham Isaac Kook, one of the most prominent Jewish thinkers of the 20th century, emphasized that true redemption and peace for the Jewish people can only come when we act in accordance with justice, respecting the rights of all people, including Palestinians. His vision for a peaceful future was one that recognized the rights of others in the land we share. Islamic teachings, the Holy Quran and Hadith. The Holy Quran, the sacred text of Islam, upholds the value of justice, respect for others, and the sanctity of life. Allah God says in Surah Al-Baqarah 2:177, "It is not righteousness that you turn your faces toward the east or the west, but righteousness is in one who believes in Allah, the last day, the angels, the book, and the prophets, and who gives of their wealth for the sake of others." True righteousness is about helping others and ensuring that justice is served. The Sahih Hadith, authentic sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, reinforce the importance of peace, respect for others, and the sanctity of life. One such hadith states, "None of you truly believes until he wishes for his brother what he wishes for himself." Sahih Muslim. If we truly wish for peace, justice, and security for our own people, we must extend the same wish to the Palestinian people, who have suffered for far too long. A call to conscience. I understand that many of you were born into a system that has long perpetuated certain beliefs. I understand the fear, the anger, and the pain that many of you feel. But I urge you to look deeper, to look at the faces of the Palestinian children, orphans, mothers, fathers, and the elderly. Ask yourselves, would you want your children to grow up in an environment of fear and displacement? Would you want your own land, home, and heritage to be stripped from you, as so many Palestinians have experienced? The struggle of the Palestinian people is not an abstract political issue. It is a struggle for survival, dignity, and the right to live in their homeland. Their suffering is real. It cannot be ignored. And as human beings, it is our collective responsibility to stand against injustice wherever it is found. I ask you, with all due respect and humility, to reconsider the policies that have led to such suffering. Think not only of the history that you have been taught, but of the future that Palestinians and peace-loving Israelis can create together. A future where Jews, Muslims, Christians, and all people can live side by side, respecting one another's rights, cultures, and aspirations. A future where no child has to live in fear, and no mother has to mourn the loss of her family.